Got you, got you. Thanks very much indeed, Saleho Tats, investment analyst at Anchor Capital. Young man does his job. Tanya, it's back to you.
Thank you. And it's now time for our weekly COVID-19 discussion. So over the past weeks, we've looked extensively at the economic and financial impact of the pandemic, as well as the health crisis linked to it. This week, we're diving into the social and societal investment impact of COVID. Joining me is Graeme Wilkinson, social investment specialist at Tshikululu Social Investments. Welcome, Graeme.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much. Good to be with you this afternoon, and hi to all of your viewers.
It's a pleasure. So to start us off, I was very curious when I looked at your job title, Social Investment Specialist. So I'd like you to tell us exactly what is the real social and societal impact that the pandemic has had on us?
Well, we don't know in full. It's a short answer, and I think it's going to be a while before we can even begin to quantify it. But people know in their own personal lives the impact that COVID-19 has had. But we also know in terms of the economy and what we're beginning to understand in greater depth is the impact it's had on not only our physical health, but increasingly our mental health in society as well. And these are, unfortunately, these are not knowables, so they're not entirely quantifiable. But we do now, after 18 months of living with COVID, that firstly, we're going to need to figure out how to live with it for much longer. It's going to be around for a while still. And that its impacts are really at multiple levels. The economic ones, I think your viewers are perhaps even better placed than I am to understand the impact on things like GDP and exchange rates, etc. But for people on the ground and as social investors, we're particularly looking at the sorts of investments that deliver social returns, and particularly in a developing country like South Africa, where we still think of ourselves as two countries in one. But there is the part of South Africa that requires a lot more development. And that part of South Africa, which is the majority of South Africans, are finding themselves increasingly hard-pressed because of the impacts of COVID-19, not only on their health and on their families' health with much higher mortality rates, but also on their ability to earn a living and to sustain themselves economically.
Thank you. And so tell me a little bit more about the core of what you do, social investing. What has been the influence or the impact of COVID-19 on this type of investing?
Super. So, yeah, the company I work for, Tshikululu, we've been remarking that for the last year and a half, we really have not been, we've hardly ever been as busy as we have been. Our role over time is really to help to direct social investments to better produce social outcomes. And the kind of social outcomes that we normally focus on would be things like education, livelihoods, health care, and helping to strengthen society. So we can see the sort of social returns that should hopefully, by reinvesting social returns, as a society we are stronger and more resilient and are able to achieve economic returns too. So over this period, we've really shifted gear from preparing and investing in longer term outcomes to much more emergency relief sort of responses, emergency relief, disaster recovery. And of course, that's just been the double whammy of the violence that we experienced in KwaZulu-Natal and in Gauteng early on in the year. It's just another layer on top of the challenges that COVID-19 has brought. But it's brought into sharp relief the impact that not paying attention to social issues, what that can do to our economic infrastructure, our economic resilience as a country. And so we're finding as social investors, the pressure is really on at the moment to try and help those of our clients. And we do think of people who are philanthropists and other sorts of social investors, impact investors, who want to see change happen in society. COVID-19 has really put the focus right now on emergency relief, making sure we get people food if they're hungry and unable to work because of lockdowns. Following that, making sure that we're able to sustain and support communities to develop their own abilities, to earn a livelihood. During lockdown, it's really been quite challenging. And now we've got the added challenge of the violence and the impact that has had on places of employment. We've got warehouses and factories that have shut down and aren't hiring anybody because they've been burnt to the ground. Looking at issues that come out of that, there's mental health issues. There lots of work needs to be done around building the social cohesion, working on conflict resolution. We're hearing from the investigation into human rights abuses during that period that some really horrible things happened. And there are pains, there are wounds that we're going to carry as a society going into the near and to long-term future. So it's how do we help build this sorts of infrastructure? And I'm thinking of social infrastructure here. Things like, do we have enough social workers on the ground? Do we have enough nurses on the ground? Do we have enough trained teachers on the ground that can help us prepare ourselves as a society to better weather these sorts of challenges as they come?
And so you mentioned the shift from long-term social investing to emergency sort of disaster relief social investing. How long is this state of emergency going to last, in your opinion?
That is a very good call. Yes, one of the things we could perhaps use as a yardstick is to try and understand the trajectory of the pandemic and whether we can expect a fourth wave. And our best projections are that South Africa is definitely due a fourth wave. If it doesn't arrive in December, it will really definitely arrive in later January. So we know it's coming. We don't know how many more waves we will have to face after that. So it is possible, just looking at the trajectory of the pandemic, that we could be looking at this sort of life that we're living right now, of a sort of a level 1 adjusted or a level 2 adjusted sort of lockdown that is curtailing our ability to interact and to engage with each other as society for at least another 6 months. But yeah, and beyond that, no one really knows. One of the things we are sure of, and what we've been part of 2 weeks ago, we had a webinar focusing on COVID-19 and profiling one of the initiatives that we've been part of together with other social investors like the DG Murray Trust, Discovery Fund, for example, have put money together in a pot to make funds available to support NGOs on the ground throughout the country, in every district, in every sub-district, to help the Department of Health mobilize people to go and get vaccinated. The sooner we're able to reach that 70% everyone vaccinated, the sooner we can get going again and enjoy the sort of economic life that we've been used to.
Yes, thank you, Graeme. Thank you. That was Graeme Wilkinson, Social Investment Specialist at Tshikululu Social Investments. Now back to Godfrey.
Indeed, interesting discussion. I was just